So good morning, I'm Advait, and this is ACES's first event, Android workshop. And this is a 2-day workshop, right? Today and tomorrow, 2 hours both days. And I'll be covering up today's session. So what we are planning to do is basically create an Android application such that it will cover different concepts basically. So what we are planning to cover today is basic UI, how to create UI in Android Studio using the design editor, or they're using constraint layouts. And we will be also covering up SQLite database and a couple other design widgets like calendar and date picker and so on. And the idea behind creating one single app is that we will continue it tomorrow as well. So whatever we will cover tomorrow, that is Firebase and maps, etc. Even that will be, a part of the same app. So before I go forward, please start Android Studio right now. I know it takes a couple of minutes to start properly entirely. So until we start, it could open up. Okay. So let me present my screen until then. Yeah, is it visible, guys? Do let me know in the chat box. Okay, so yeah, so this is Android Studio if you have started already. So this is yesterday's app. Don't look at this right now. So if you have opened it already, just head over to File and click on New Project. But until then, let me tell you, thank you for joining this workshop. And Android is such a platform where you might decide to continue with it for the future, for your future. Like if you want to go into mobile development or app development and so on. But even if you don't want to go, it's still a great platform to learn, because to be honest, that's how I started my journey with software development. Because when I was in first year, I kind of started exploring Android, and I didn't even knew Java properly. So I don't know what I was doing, but it gave me exposure to a lot of different things. And some of these things are very general, to be honest. So even if you do Android, and let's say you want to go to another framework later on, it's going to be easy, because as I said, a lot of things are general. So when you see some concept or try to learn some concept in a different framework, it just hits you that, okay, this is how it is in Android and this is how it is in this framework. So it just connects, and then you start forming hunches, and it's a very good baseline that forms so that you can learn. And that includes different services as well. So as we mentioned, we are also going to cover Firebase, right? So Firebase is not something that is just specific to Android applications. You can use it for any kind of applications, even websites, and learning that is really going to be beneficial. Okay, so let's hope you have started Android Studio by now. Click on File, go to New, and click on a new project. So this will create a new project basically, and I posted some steps yesterday on the group to create an empty application, just so that Android Studio downloads all the files that are necessary. And if you have created that empty application, you don't need to create a new project right now. You can continue in that application directly, if those steps are correct. So let me go to new project. Follow me if you haven't done this already, and click on empty activity. So I'll talk about what activities are. Basically, activities are just pages in your screen. So open up any app you want on your phone right now. Let's say you open up WhatsApp right now. So the first screen that you see over there is an activity. And any other pages. Let's say you go to the settings page. So it's a different page. So that is a different activity. And any app contains like hundreds of different activities. You might not think that there are hundreds of different pages in an application, but when you start developing that application, you'll know like activities just creep up at different places, small places. So there are hundreds of these usually in a regular sized application, and it basically represents a page. And right now, that when we are creating a project, it will ask you what kind of activity you want as your first one. So these are just templates. So you can see that there are many templates where you have basic activity, a bottom navigation, as you see nowadays. Example, Google Photos. There are these tabs at the bottom. Then you have full screen, ads mob, Google Maps activity, login, and so on. So right now we are not going to use any of these templates. What we are going to go forward with is an empty activity. And I'll show you how to design the UI for these activities using constraint layouts. So click on next after selecting empty activity. Type in a name for your application. I'm going to call it a helpful calendar. A package name would already, it would appear automatically. Select a save location. The default language would be Kotlin over here. Change it to Java. And the minimum SDK, change it to API 21, that is Android 5.0 Lollipop. So what this minimum SDK represents is basically the, which platform your app supports, the oldest platform, and it is totally fine to go back even further and select KitKat and so on. But what happens is that there are certain certain UI libraries that do not run on those platforms, and basically you crave for backwards compatibility, but it does not, it prevents you from getting new features into your application. So Android 5.0 is like a sweet spot. That was when Material UI got introduced, and it supports a vast number of libraries, and your app still covers 94% of devices, as it says. So this is fine. So this is it for the setup. Click on finish. That will create a new application for you. Let's just wait until it starts up. I'll close this one. Okay, so if you're doing it for the first time, you'll notice that over here, you'll see some processes running Gradle build. So because you're running this app for the first time, Gradle, so I'll explain what Gradle is, okay? It's something that takes care of building and running your app and takes care of all the dependencies. So if you have programmed in, let's say you have programmed websites using Node.js or so on, you might be familiar with your package.json file and your node modules folder. Or if you program in Python, you might be familiar with requirements.txt file, for example. So what are those files? Those files are basically places where you list what are your dependencies for your application. You list what you need for your application. And similarly, there's a file named build.gradle, and over there all such dependencies are listed, and then Gradle takes care of downloading them and making them available. Okay, so that process is complete. Let me just take you through all these files that, the important files that we will need. So there are two build.gradle. Go on to the module one right now. And you will see over here all these details that we, so here's the minimum SDK version. So this is just information about your application, general information. So you have the minimum SDK level, that is API 21. You have the target SDK, that is 30. I believe that is Android 11. And then you have your package ID and so on. And at the bottom, you will see there are dependencies listed over here. So this is what I was talking about. So all these are dependencies. And anytime you want to download a new SDK or use some package, you just list it over here, just in this format, just like this. Implementation, and in these brackets write down the library's name, and Gradle will download it from the database and install it in this application. So here is another build.gradle file. So this is a project level file. So this is basically the repository. So the repositories that are listed here is where Gradle will check which dependencies need to be downloaded. So you don't have to, tinker with this file. I mean, Android Studio takes care of it. We don't really need to do much in these two files. What we do need to do is there's this file android manifest.xml. You'll find it under the manifests folder. So even this file just lists out some general information about about your application. So you have the icon over here, you have the label, that is the app name, you have the theme, you have different activities that get listed over here. So every time you add a new activity, it creates a new entry over here, so that it knows, so that basically the Android OS knows what kind of activities or how many activities there are in your application when your app is installed. And even here, all the permissions that applications require are mentioned over here. So you can write permission like this, and the name of the permission and so on, and that will give a pop-up when your app launches, so that you get the permission. And this intent filter block over here, so this block is actually what identifies which activity to launch at the first screen. So even if add another activity, it will create a new activity block. I'll come back to this later on, don't worry. So you can place this intent filter block inside, and that is what identifies which activity has to be launched first. So I'll come back to this later when we create another activity. So this is it for now. I hope you've been following. I'll just wait for 1 more minute just to make sure that your Android Studio is ready and we can go forward. Okay, so do let me know in the chat box if you're ready, if you're following. Okay, Gaurav is asking me to show the process again. So Gaurav, can you please unmute and, which process I didn't exactly understand. Can you please unmute and let me know?
Sir, actually, the program which is displaying on your screen is not shown on my screen. That's why I told you to repeat the process.
Okay, so can you tell me until where you have followed?
I have followed till selecting the minimum
Okay.
Android version till Lollipop, and after that I did finish, and after that a different program is coming on my screen.
Okay, can
Means
you
I
describe
have
what is
set
showing
the
up?
example name of the program to Hello World.
Okay, sure. So when you start
Yes,
a
sir.
project for the first time,
What did you said?
yeah, so when you start a project, create a project for the first time, it will not take you to the files. It will show a blank screen. But on the left hand side, so I'll show you. Okay, so on the left hand side, all these files should be listed over here. So if they are not, just click on this project tab here, and all these files will show up, and then you can navigate just like I was doing right now. Does that clear it up, Gaurav? Okay, let me know if it doesn't. So let's go forward right now. Okay, so in In this file explorer, you'll see that there's a main activity that is created. So this is the one that will launch by default, and you can click on this res folder, which stands for resources, and you can click on layout, and you will see that there is an XML file named activity underscore main. So whenever you create activities, it basically comes in pair of these two files. This main activity is a Java file which contains all the code, all the Java code that you write, the backend code to handle everything. And then there's this XML file. So the XML file contains your design. So everything that you do, so actually this is a design editor. So at the top right, you'll see these three panes: code, split, and design. If you're using an older version of Android Studio, it will be at the bottom left over here, somewhere over here. So you can click on code or XML, and it will take you to this code editor. So this is where you'll see the code for this layout. So it's okay. I mean, we don't have to deal with this right now. We can go over back. I mean, head over back to the design tab and start designing our application using this design editor. So Android Studio has a really intuitive design editor, to be honest. So there are different widgets. So if you've ever created UI using Qt Creator or anything of that sort, you know how drag and drop works. So there are all these widgets on the left-hand side. You can see different widgets like text view, button, image view, recycler view, which is for a list. And it is really easy to drag and drop them inside this UI. And after that is done, so I'll show you an example. Let's say we take a button and we drag and drop it and place it over here, and then we have to align it. So there are different types of layouts in Android Studio. The ones that were popular earlier on were linear layouts mostly, but recently there's a new layout named constraint layout, and it is much more intuitive, and it is basically like a relative layout where you can place constraints over different UI widgets so that they appear relative to other widgets. So I'll show you what that means. So let's delete this button for now. If you've created this empty activity, you'll see that there's a hello world text box over here. And these lines, the at the top, bottom, left, and right, are different constraints that are applied to this text box. So what are constraints? Basically, they are just some guidelines for that UI, for that widget, so that it appears at the right place. So let's go ahead and delete all these constraints and start from scratch, so you'll know what it means. So there are these small blue circles, right? So click Control on your keyboard and then click on these circles. That will delete those constraints. Yep. So now that we have deleted these constraints, it is a free text box and you can paste it wherever you want. But at runtime, it will not stay over here because it is not constrained. So you can see that there's some error over here that when you hover over it, it will say, okay, why is it not coming up? Yeah, it will say that this view is not constrained. And the important part is it will jump to 0,0 at runtime unless you add the constraints. So if you want, you can run your application and check. I'll come to that. But let's just paste constraints for now. So you can click on this, the top circle over here, and drag your mouse to the top, the top of the window. And that will place a constraint on the top. At the right hand side, you will see that there's a constraint widget. There's this square over here, and it will tell you that there's a constraint placed at the top, but the distance between the two places that you have constrained is 0. So click on the drop down and write 16 over here. So now you can see that basically it is 16 dp below this edge of the window. And dp is it is display pixels. It is not an exact pixels, so they are independent of the resolution of your screen, and they work well when designing an UI. So like it ensures that it doesn't look different on different people's screens because they are of different resolution. So now that we've added the top constraint, click on this left circle And add a left constraint similarly. Click on it, drag your mouse to the left edge of the window, and that will create another constraint. Now on the right, again, you'll see that it says 0 because the distance by default is 0. You can even edit it and enter 16 instead. So you will see that this hello world is placed at the top left corner with 16 dp on both sides. So this is how constraint layout works. So these are the basics. I'll show you how to create some more complex UIs with this as well. So if you're with me until now, let's actually run our application so we can see how it looks like. So at the in the menu bar over here, you'll see that there's a run button, and at the left hand side, you'll see which device to run on. So this available device Pixel 3 is actually an emulator, and it is not a real device. So I'm using an emulator so that I'll be able to show you what's on my screen, what the application looks like. But using an emulator can be heavy on your resources. So if you have, you can just connect your phone to the laptop directly using a USB cable. Just make sure that you go to developer settings in your phone and turn on USB debugging so that you'll be able to install applications this way. Let me know in the comments if you have any doubts regarding this. And once you do, you'll be able to see your phone listed over here. So it will show up, and then when you click on run, it will run your application on the phone. So I'll just click on run right now and let the emulator load up. And meanwhile, you can ask me if you have any questions and up until this process. Okay, let's do one thing. There's a short quiz. Yeah, someone is unmuted.
Hello guys. Hi, I'm Vinod here. I just want to know if you are feeling that this session is going very fast or very slow or maybe the proper speed. So we want that feedback right now so that from here onwards that we can take it in a proper speed. So in the chat box, I have pasted the code for Slido.com. Please go to Slido.com. There is a question there. Please answer that question so that we get our feedback right now. The code is 51602. Okay. Please everyone vote so that we are aware that what is the speed that we are taking at.
Yep, let me know if you're going too fast. If that is the case, I'll slow down so that you can understand what is going on exactly. And if you feel that I'm going too slow, let me know that as well. Although I suppose that won't be the case.
Okay. Some of you have joined a bit late, so I guess that might be a problem because we had already started from 9:05.
Okay, I think my application has compiled and installed. So until you answer your question on Slido, let me just show you the application. So this is what it looks like, a helpful calendar, and we have just one UI element, that is our text view, hello world, and it is constrained to the top and to the left with 16 dp of space from both sides. So this is how it looks like. So you will see that actually this UI editor, this preview that you see over here, that is actually quite accurate. And whenever you are designing a UI, you don't need to run your application every time. So this is actually a very helpful feature by Android Studio. You can just see how your design is going to look like, and it is very accurate.
Okay, so most of you have voted on Slido.com. So 84% feel that the session is going at the proper speed. 14% feel that it is a bit fast, and surprisingly, Bope, 3% feel that it's a bit slow. So,
Okay.
those who are feeling that it's going a bit fast, can you type in the chat box where you didn't follow, or what process that we can explain it again?
I suppose those 3% are either messing with me or they're already familiar with Android.
Yeah, I think they are from third year. So,
Okay. How to run the program? Okay, sure. So in Android Studio, in this menu bar, there are different buttons over here. So I'm seeing a different button, but you will see a green triangle pointed to the right instead. So that is the button from where you can run your application. Alternatively, there's also this run menu over here, and you can click on the run app. So before you do this, actually make sure you have a device connected to your to your console or Android Studio. It could be a virtual device or it could be your phone as well. So I am running a virtual device, an emulator, so that I'll be able to show you what is going on. And this might or might not be visible for you. Even if it is not, you can just connect your phone directly to your laptop. And I would recommend that because running an emulator would actually consume up a lot of resources. It uses your system RAM as the emulator's RAM. So if you can connect your phone instead, that would be great. Uh, and once you do that, you can just click on this run button and that will install it on your phone. There are some steps that you need to follow on your phone before you do this. That is to go to your developer settings and enable USB debugging. So Gaurav, have you enabled USB debugging?
Yes, I have done it, and that Pixel 3a API option is also showing, but nothing is visible on my phone screen after running the program.
Okay, so when you enabled USB debugging, did it ask for a permission for your laptop to allow access?
Yes, it asked, I allowed it.
Okay, so which device have you selected? Have you selected Pixel 3a or your phone?
Pixel 3a is only visible now. My phone is not visible over there. AVD manager is an option and run on multiple devices. These are the three options over there.
Okay, so your phone isn't visible here. Okay, if you have connected it and it is still not visible, just click on troubleshoot device connections and it will show some steps over here. You can rescan devices, click next. It will prompt you to restart the ADB server, and that usually solves it in most cases. If your phone still does not show up, maybe you'll have to go forward with running it on Pixel 3a. Video.
okay, Gaurav, I hope it answers your question.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, just a minute. I think Advait has got some work. Till then, I have posted one more question on slido.com. The code is same. You can answer that question. Please go to slido.com and type the code 51602. And for third year students, I think who are doing the mini project, they might feel that the session is going a bit slow. But we need to understand that students from the second year have also joined in. So, so initially some basics would be covered that you might already know, but after that we can go at a decent pace, so that second year can follow up too. Advait, you can also answer the question on Slido if you feel.
Acha, sure. By the way, it came to my notice that someone was asking developer options aren't visible on his phone. So that is because it needs to be enabled explicitly. So in your settings, go over to about phone or something like that and tap on build number 8 times. So when you do that on build number, when you tap 8 times, it will enable developer options, and then you can enable USB debugging under it. Okay, 53%, that's nice. Okay, so let me just clear it up. The UI is written in XML. Java is used for programming because a lot of students have picked Java. Java is where the backend logic, where you code your backend logic, but your design is done in XML. So using the design editor layout that I showed you earlier, this one, you actually just drag and drop. But what Android Studio does for you is create all this XML directly. So conventionally, developers just used to write XML over here. They used to just write text view. They used to set all these constraints and height, width, everything manually, using code. But now they just use this more intuitive design layout, and Android Studio converts it into XML. Okay, and HTML, no, Android does not use HTML for UI. It uses XML. Okay. Cool. Let me know if you have any issues up until this point running the application. If not, I think it is safe to go forward now. So I explained just some basics of constraint layout, how we can add constraints and so on. Let me just show you what all different attributes and everything is visible here. So you will see a component tree listed here. The root is the constraint layout, and it follows whatever is there in the code. So this is your root tag, that is the constraint layout, and under it you have this text view. So which is why it shows like this, text view hello world. And when you click on this widget, at the right hand side, you will see a lot of attributes. So if it is not visible, you can just click on this attributes over here, and this will pop up, this window will pop up. So these are some declared attributes, that is the width, height. I'll explain what wrap content is, and the margins and the text as well. So you can just change this text. Okay, let's just keep it hello instead. And that will change it here. And there are more such attributes. So this is the constraint editor, the UI. You can click on this plus button to add different constraints. And then you have other attributes that are specific to a text view. So what kind of text do you want, what font size, font type, and so on, and other attributes. So there are actually tens of attributes over here, and you can edit any of them to to change how this UI behaves. So as an example, okay, where is the on click? Okay, yeah, here is an on click attribute. So as an example, when you have to click on this text and need some action to be executed, you can set this on click attribute. So that will run some function in your application. And this is how attributes are used basically. Okay. So a little bit more about constraints. So right now what we have done is added only two constraints, one to the top and one to the left. Let's see what happens when we add a constraint to the right edge as well. So click on this right circle and drag it and take it to this edge, right edge. And you will notice that this comes at the center. So why this happens basically is because the view is, the widget is very small. The screen is relatively wider, and because you have constraint to both sides, it will try to adjust on both sides equally. So which is why it comes up in the center. And so actually, this width of this text box, it is set to wrap content, as I said. So wrap content is basically like whatever content is there, that will be the width of this widget. But there are you can set different width to it. You can even manually set, let's say I set 200 dp. So Okay, why did it not set? Okay, I don't know why that is happening. Okay, anyway, even if you do not set it explicitly, there is this another option that is called match constraint. So when you click on it, what you'll notice is that it expands on all sides, and it will match the constraint in the sense that it will expand it and just so our constraint was 0, right? So it will like expand completely on both sides. If you edit this constraint and keep 16 dp instead, you will see that there's some margin over here. And again, if you edit this left constraint and give it 16 dp of space, you'll see some margin on this side as well. And now this halo is on the left side. If you want it on the center, you'll have to align it in the center. So that can be done using the attributes. So here are some common attributes that Android Studio has listed for you specifically for the test view widget. You can click on this center and that will make it, that will get your hello text in the center. But do note your widget is still this wide. it is still this much, just your text is in the center. So this is how you can use constraint layout. So I think I can go ahead with the UI now. So what we want, I'll just delete this hello text widget. What we want to do right now is create a calendar app. So the app is such that a calendar will be shown. You can click on any date and it will show you what events are there on that date. And you can create a new event as well, and that will insert it in the database. So this is the outline of our application. So in this palette over here, you can just click on search, the search icon, and type in calendar. So you'll see that a calendar view comes up. You can just drag and drop this into the UI editor, and bam, it's there. So again, the first thing when you add any UI element, the first thing that you need to do is set a proper ID. Okay, so if you've programmed in JavaScript, you might know what ID is. JavaScript in the sense when you do any basic HTML web designing, and you give IDs to your elements, right? And then you can refer to them later by using get element by ID in JavaScript. So it is exactly the same in Android. You give an ID and there's a function named find view by ID, and you use it to get your view in Java. So right now by default it is calendar view. Let's keep it that way. If you want, you can change it. So this is the first thing that you need to do while when you insert a UI element. And why this is so, because it is extremely important to have a good naming convention when you insert UI elements, because right now this is not a very complex app, right? But when you design some big applications, it can get really frustrating when you see different names for these UI widgets and you don't know which one refers to which widget. So that is there. The second thing that you need to do is set constraints. So right now it is not constrained. If you run your application, it will just go to the top left, and you can see this warning over here as well. So just click on this circle and constrain it at the top. Give it some space, some margin, and constrain it to the left and to the right as well. Okay, so at the top there is 16, but at the left and right, because our phone screen is wider, it will get it at the center, and that is totally fine. So our calendar is here. We don't need to do much to the calendar right now, but just go ahead and grab another text view and place it at the bottom of this calendar. And now what we are going to do is we are going to constrain this text view relative to this calendar. So click on this blue circle at the top and place this arrow over to the calendar's bottom edge. So that will mean that this text view will appear below this calendar. Just make sure you give out some good spacing. I'll keep it 48 dp, and you constrain it to the left and to the right, just as you did with the calendar. So that will get it in the center. And I'll just edit this ID. I'll just say events heading text view. A pop-up box will show, and just click on refactor and you'll be good to go. And I'll edit the text to events. If you want, you can change some attributes. I'll make it bold. Oops, sorry. Maybe increase the text size as well. Right. And you have the text color here, so you can just type in black, for example, and it will show you pick add color / black, and the text color will change. Okay, so now that we have done this, you can run your application once again and check how this UI looks. So I've kept this heading over here so that whenever you click on this date, all the events that are listed, that will show below. I mean, that will show up in a list below this heading. So that list part, we'll do it later on, but I've kept the heading right now. So you can run your application and let's see how it looks like. Okay, so here is our app. We can see our calendar and the event setting as well. Sorry, and you can interact. I'm sorry. So you can interact with it regularly. You can move around the calendar. You can select a date, and so on. But at this point, we've just added the UI. Like nothing happens when you click on the date because we have not set anything, and that part we'll be doing it later on. So the next thing that we want to do is create a plus button that will serve as an add event button. So whenever you click on that button, a new screen will show, a new page, or to be specific, a new activity, and you can enter different details about the event over there, so that when you click on save, it will save the event to the database. So let's go ahead and add a plus button. So instead of a regular button, let's just add a floating action button instead. Type in floating action button and drag and drop to the bottom left. And it will show it will show a pop-up box for picking a resource. So this is the icon that will show on that button. So just type in add, and you can select IC input add. Okay, so this is the button. So upon now that you see this button, you might realize that it is familiar to you because a lot of applications do use buttons like these. Let's say you're using a file explorer to create a new folder, or in Gmail to compose a new email. There are buttons like these, and this is called a floating action button. So even when your screen has a scroll view basically, and you scroll among the different elements, this button does not lose its position. So this is why it's called a floating action button. Again, so I've placed it at the bottom right, but not added any constraints. So I'm going to go ahead and add constraints. You can even click on the plus button to add some constraints, and I'm going to make it 32. So it's a good idea to keep this number in multiples of 8 or 16, so that generally follows material guidelines and looks good. So I've kept 32 on both sides, and at the right and at the bottom. So our button is here, and I'm just going to give it an ID. Add event. Okay.
Hello guys, I think Advait has some net issues. Till that, and sorry for that. You guys can understand we are taking this event in virtual, so there might be some problems that we will face. He will be joining soon. Till then, we have some questions that have been posted on Slido.com. Go to the Slido.com, type the same event code, and answer those questions. Constraints are not changing for the calendar view. Okay, Advait will answer it soon. Sorry for the network issues, by the way. Till then, go to slido.com.
Hello. Yeah. Hi, guys. So, extremely sorry. I didn't realize when I got exited out of the chat. I mean, the window.
Advait, I have posted some like one question on Slido. You can also answer it if you want.
Okay, sure. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Everyone is correct.
Everyone can answer that question. It will help you to clear your basic understanding because wrap content is one of the most basic feature of Android, and everyone should have their fundamentals getting cleared as soon as it is possible.
Also, guys, so I didn't realize actually when I got thrown out of this meeting. So do let me know where I was because I was just talking and I didn't realize.
You added the floating button. Till then, everyone was there with
Okay,
you.
did I cover the constraints?
Uh, can you share the screen so that
Yeah, sure.
I can update?
Okay, Abhinav, then I'll show it again.
Advait, can you explain wrap content in short? Because there have been some have voted for second and third option. If you can go to slido.com, you can
Okay,
see
sure.
all the options.
Yep. Okay. So the component want to display it as big as parent. So, okay, no. So yeah, wrap content is basically whatever the content you have inside of this text view. So right now it is events, right? And events needs only this much space. So the text box that is the blue boundary that you can see. The width is exactly equal to this because events only needs that much. If I type in events list and press enter, you'll see that this expands and it still equals the size of events list because that is how much space this text requires. So that is what wrap content is. And if you know, for the layout width, there's this another option named match constraint. So when you click on that, you'll see what happens. So I think this should make it clear. So now this blue box actually covers the entire screen because it tries to match the constraints, which are 0 and 0 on both sides, on left and right. If you increase this width, let's say you keep this 16 and keep this 16, you'll see that it reduces from both sides, but it has still expanded and it is trying to match the constraints. I'm sorry if I'm using the exact same terms, but I mean it's kind of self-explanatory. So it is trying to expand and reach these edges while keeping this space 16 dp. So right now we don't want match constraint, we want wrap content so that it comes at the center and the width is exactly equal to this events list. So I hope that makes it clear.
Right. There is one more question that I have posted. Please answer that. So Advait will answer it. Why is it doing that?
Yep. Okay, yeah. So why I'm giving it in multiples of 8 is because we need to follow material guidelines for while creating our UI. So what happens is that whenever you design any UI, right? So okay, let's look at this calendar. If I give something odd, let's say I give it 13, it does not look as visually appealing. So it will not make a difference right now. But when you create applications that have lots of different widgets, and you have to give some spacing to all of them, and I mean it's not in such multiples, it will look really odd. One is 13, one is 17, and so on. But if you make it in multiples of 8 or 16 and so on, it just looks more consistent overall, and it follows material guidelines, and it gives a nice look to the application. So make sure you follow.
Right. Advait, can you answer two questions that have been given in the chat box?
Okay, I can only
Digvij,
see one. I think
yeah,
one
I
was
will
asked
paste
before.
it.
Yeah,
I will paste it again.
yeah, Abhinandan, I'll get back to you about the floating action button. Constraints are not changing for calendar view. Okay, I think you're going to have to be a little more specific.
Yeah. Right. Digvijay, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yep.
Till then, Advait, you can tell Abhinandan how can you add the floating action.
Okay, sure.
Hello,
Uh,
Yeah, hi, Digvijay.
am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yes. So when I drag and drop the calendar widget,
mhm,
it sets its constraints to the 0, 0
mhm.
at the top left corner.
Yep,
And then
exactly.
I change the constraint widget in the layout, but it will not change.
Okay. Okay. So, right, you're right about the part that it says 0, 0 when you don't have any constraints. But generally when you click on this circle at the top and drag your mouse to this, it will create a constraint. So I'll give you an alternative way as well to create. So I'm assuming your screen is going to look like this right now. There are no constraints and you would be free to move the calendar anywhere. So in this, right, in the attributes pane, you can click on this plus button. Even that will generate a constraint for you. You can just click on plus. So whatever it is, right now it is 37. It will set it up to that. You can change it to 16. You can also click on left and right, and that will add constraints as well. So just make sure that it is equal. I mean, you have an equal number on both sides, so that it is exactly at the center. So try this and let me know if it works. If not, we'll see what happens. Okay, and Abhinandan, so for the floating action button, okay, I'm just going to delete it and add another. So in the palette, there's a search button. There are actually a lot of different widgets and it is difficult to find what you need. So just use this search button over here and type in floating action button. So it will show up here. And you just drag and drop it onto this UI editor to the bottom right. Now it will show, it will ask us to pick a resource because the floating action button needs an image on the top, and we are going to add a plus button there so that it is more intuitive. You can just look at it and know what it does. So there are different resources or icons that Android Studio will provide, and we need the add button. So just type in the search box, type add, and you will see this IC_input_add. So click on it and click on OK, and your button will be inserted. So does that clear it out, Abhinandan? And after you have done this, the first thing you need to do is set an ID. So I'm going to write add event FAB, and I'm going to add constraints. So again, I can add constraints by clicking on this circle and dragging my mouse to the edge of this window and to the bottom, or I can click on this plus button here at the plus button at the bottom, and it will create a bottom constraint. And after you have done so, set out some good margins. Okay, I believe I did 32 earlier. Yeah. So this is how it will look like.
Someone has asked the question at 9:36. Sorry, I'm addressing it a bit late. Someone has asked what is the long form of UI. The full form of UI is user interface. That what it basically means is that whenever you see an application, the the screen that you see is the user interface with which the user interacts. Sorry, I'm addressing this question a bit late. I just saw it.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay,
Advait, you
Maitreya.
can.
Yeah. So Maitreya is getting a problem in adding the action button. He says he's getting a gray square. Um, when you added a floating action button, did you get that pop-up window that said pick a resource?
Hello?
Yeah, hi Maitreya.
Yeah, I went to the palette and I did what you said me to do, and I'm getting a problem with this. So I got the float. I got the. Can you wait a minute?
Yeah, sure.
Just a minute. Sorry. I did this thing. After I got the resources page, and then when I clicked add, I got a gray square.
When you clicked on add, had you selected that IC input underscore add
Yeah.
resource? Okay, that is strange.
Is it dependent upon the Android Studio version or something like that?
No, actually, this is a very old functionality, so it should not be dependent on the version. I mean, it's been here since ages. You're getting a gray square. Did you run your application and check if that button is visible?
Just wait, just me. I'll do it.
Yeah, please. Okay, Siddhant and Sahil also have the same question. So even you try running your applications, it can happen sometimes that the UI, I mean, this design editor does not accurately represent it, but it might still, show up in your application. So until you check, I'll just move on because we would run out of time otherwise. Let me know what happens. Okay. So yeah, when I got exited, I was actually showing you guys how to add a new activity. So in your Android Studio in the menu bar, just click on File, click on New, and go to the bottom and hover over Activities. So you'll see that different activities are listed. So these are the same ones that we saw when we were creating a new project. So just click on Empty Activity again, and it will show this pop-up box. So add a name to it. I'm going to call it New Event Activity. Again, I am adding this activity keyword at the end because it is done, like conventionally it is followed that you write this activity here so that it is easy to identify among these files which is an activity, which is a class, which is an interface, and so on. And you'll see that there's a checkbox, generate a layout file. So it is basically asking if it should generate the XML file for the UI. So leave it at the default. We don't need to change anything here. The source language will be Java as well. And click on finish. So that will create this new activity, and it should show up here. Yeah. So in the pane on the left hand side, you'll see that it shows up here below main activity called new event activity, and this is the Java page, the class new event activity that will show up. And you'll also have this XML file activity underscore new underscore event. So you can double click on it, but you'll see that it is completely empty. There is nothing over there at the moment. So the first thing that we are going to do is link these two activities, and then we'll start developing UI for this. So for the code part, right? Okay, so I've already coded this application yesterday, so that when I was preparing for this workshop, and we realized that it would be difficult for you to type as I type over here, because it would just take more time. So we have uploaded this code to YouTube, so not to YouTube, to GitHub. I'll paste this link. So check out this repository. You don't need to clone it, just open it in your browser. And whenever I code, even I'll be copying code from here, so you know what to copy, and meanwhile I'll explain the code as well. So you will know what the code is doing, and we will not waste any time typing it out as well. So you can copy it from there. Okay. So open it. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically you can open this link in another window. So and you can copy the code that Advait instructs you to. So the basic intention behind this was that we take too much time to type, and we want to cover maximum things. And also you should understand the code as well. So Advait will be explaining the code, but the efforts of typing the code would be reduced. So yeah, Advait, you can carry on.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So go over to the repository, and these are different files that are listed. So there are a lot of files. Don't get confused by those files. Just click on app, click on source, click on main, and here's your Android manifest.xml. Here are your resources, and over here will be all these Java files. So these are different files. So right now we only have two. So just open main activity.java and you'll see the Java code that we have. So I'll go over this, what it is. You don't need to worry right now. So in your Android Studio, open main activity.java, and right now you'll see that there's already a function named onCreate. And again, it is self-explanatory, the name. OnCreate will execute whenever, whenever that activity starts. So this is just giving a call to its parent class, so not to worry about it. And here's this function set content view r.layout.activity main. So this line is actually referring to this XML file activity main activity underscore main.xml, and it will link that UI to this activity. So this is what is happening in onCreate. And what we need to do right now is first add an event listener on our floating action button so that we know when it gets clicked. So head over to the repo right now, and on the website, check out line 30 to line 48. Just copy line 30 to 48 and paste it in onCreate. So whenever you get a red warning like this, right, just press Alt Enter and press Import Class. So it will import it, and you'll see that that package is listed here, floating action button. So that will solve the error. So do it for all these. Okay. So yesterday while doing, I named it add event activity. Today it was new event activity, so I renamed it. Okay, so what is this code doing basically? So if you have done any programming in JavaScript while creating any websites in HTML and so on, there was a function that I mentioned earlier, get element by ID. So this find view by ID is exactly the same thing for Android. You pass in the ID of your this thing, your UI widget, and it will get it and store it in this variable. So you create an object of this type, floating action button, and you use this line find view by ID, and you get that element. And now we have to add an on-click listener. So just use this object add event button dot set on-click listener, and we have to pass a new object, a view dot on-click listener. So whenever you actually type this, it will come up in autocomplete, and this override and this public void onclude, this this wrapper would be inserted automatically. And what we do need to type in manually is this part here. So this is the function, this onClick is the function that gets called when a user clicks the button. So this is the code that will execute when the user clicks on our floating action button, the plus button. And so here is the code that that starts this activity. So there is this function, inbuilt function called start activity, and you need to pass an intent. So what is an intent basically? So intent is something that will, that you can use to for different things like showing notifications or passing data between your application and so on. Intent will contain data about where you are and where you want to go and so on. So like, what is your intent? So that is actually how it was named. So you create an intent object. If you're familiar with Java, you'll know the syntax that this intent variable is of the type intent, and we're just instantiating this class and passing these two parameters. So the first parameter, main activity.this, is where we are right now. That is the context, that is main activity, and you just do .this. And the second parameter is new event activity.class. So what it signifies is this is where you want the user to be redirected. So when you click on it, he will be redirected to new event activity. So you can run your application. By the way, yeah, just make sure when you do this. Okay, sorry, one thing. This line has appeared twice, so make sure it only appears once. So I'm going to delete this set content view. And yeah, one thing, whenever you're doing this find view by ID, right? You and I, we might be using different conventions and different namings. So whenever you copy my code from GitHub, do make sure that your ID is correct, add event underscore FAB, and I'm going to check right now. So yeah, it is add event FAB. So it is correct for me. Do check what it is for you. And after this is done, you can start your application. Yeah, whenever you want to import those classes, you can press Alt Enter. If you are pressing right Alt key, it might not work. Press the left Alt key, left to the spacebar. Yeah, so our application has installed. You can see that there's a floating action button, and when you click on it, this blank activity will show up, and you can go back. So yes, now there are two changes that I'm going to make over here. So it shows helpful calendar, right? But our activity is supposed to be doing something, and this title will convey it, intuitively. So what we need to do is head over to new event activity.java, and even on GitHub, just go back and open this file, add event activity, and you'll see that there is this line, set title. So copy these two lines, line 30 and line 31, and paste it in Android Studio. So again, set title is self-explanatory. Instead of this helpful calendar that shows up here, now it will say new event. And one more change that I'm going to ask you to do is head over to Android manifest.xml that we saw earlier. It should be there at the top in the pane on the left. If it is not, just click on app manifest and it will show up. And yeah, as I mentioned earlier, so all these activities are listed in this manifest file, right? You have main activity, and now that you created a new activity, it will show up over here. So what you need to do is add one attribute to it. Before this tag closes, just press enter and type in Android :parent activity name, and press enter when this autocomplete pops up to main activity. So I'm just going to format it so that it looks better. Okay. So what this line does is that, okay, I'll show you by running. And yeah, so as I was saying earlier, this intent filter block, right? So whichever activity this block is inside, that is the one that launches at the first. So when you place it here, this is the activity that will show up first. Okay, so I've run my application, and now when I click on plus, you can see that there are two changes. You can see that new event is listed here, and there is this back button. So this is the back button that comes up when we write a parent activity. So when you click on this, it will go back to our main activity. So this is the flow that we have established right now, and this is the flow of our application. So now we are free to design UI for our app, for our second screen. So head over to activity new event.xml.
Sorry to jump in. Guys, can you tell me if we are going a bit fast or the speed is slow? Because what usually happens in the offline scenario is that people can raise the hand or maybe communicate, or we can see it on their faces. But online is a bit difficult. So you can type in the chat box if the speed is good, or we are going a bit fast, or we are going a bit slow.
Yep. For a physical event, we would have our technical team, throughout the class.
Right. So yeah. To address each of your doubts. Okay. No one is typing. Shall I make a poll again? Then.
Okay.
Good face.
Good face. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Chaitanya.
Also, for some of you might not know what GitHub is. Advait, can you explain it in short?
Achha, sure. Okay. So GitHub, it serves two purposes. First of all is to host whatever code you have. Okay, Arish, I'll go a bit slow. So GitHub, as I was saying, serves two purposes. First is to host whatever code you have, which is what I'm doing right now. I developed this app yesterday and I uploaded it to GitHub, and I've shared the link with you guys so that you can see my code, and it also serves as a bit of a portfolio kind of thing. Whatever projects you do, it's good if you put it on GitHub so that recruiters can have a look at it and know that, okay, this guy actually codes, he knows how to code, and he has these many projects. So that looks good. And the second purpose is that it is good for collaboration. So right now, I was the only one working on this project, but if you have a group project, let's say, and this is very important, because if you have a group project, there are multiple people working on the same project, and you need to collaborate. So, nowadays you don't really copy your code in a pen drive and give it to your friend, and then he copies it back and edits and gives you the pen drive again. So that does not happen, right? So GitHub avoids all of that. You can upload your code to GitHub. You can add different collaborators. Everyone can contribute to the same repository, and it is just easier for everyone to work on the same thing. So that is GitHub. Okay.
Yeah, I have posted the Slido.com event code. It has been changed. It is T968. Because we don't want only two people to tell us how is the pace of workshop going. I want almost at least 60% of the class to answer this question, so that we can go at a good pace, so that everyone understands. Because the main aim of this session is to make you aware about Android development, and at least you can, after this session, you can start with Android development. Also, I will be announcing one thing at the end of the session. So, yeah.
Yep. And yeah, one more thing. So don't worry about rushing. I mean, if you think that we are going too fast, I'll just slow it down. And we're not in a hurry to complete our syllabus in these 4 hours workshop. If anything is left over, or if you have any issues, we will definitely be there to address it later on. So that's not an issue. Okay, so it is very much similar to the previous poll. Cool. Let me know if you have reached this point, if you have your application to the state where you can click on this plus button and it will launch a new activity. Okay, cool. So now let's head over to creating a UI for our application. So I've opened this XML file, activity new event, and what we want to insert here is some details about our event. So you're creating a new event. So what details can you have? You can have the title of the event. You can have when the event is, the date and the time. So let's start with these details. So in the palette over here, just type in, okay, just click on text instead, and you'll see that there are different text fields. So you have a basic text view that is just, I mean, that is not editable. You can just view. So this text view is the heading that we inserted in our home screen, our main activity. Instead of this, you have plain text, you have password, email, phone, and so on. So these are some preset values. So when you drag and drop password, whatever you type, it will be shown in asterisks. And email, you'll have a different keyboard layout, and even for the phone, you'll have a different keyboard layout, and so on. So these are some convenient presets that Android Studio has. Right now, for the title, what we are going to need is just a plain text, edit text. So drag and drop it, and you'll see it here. Again, the first thing that has to be done is change the ID. I'm going to call it new event title edit text. So again, it's a good idea to at the end append, to append what kind of a widget this is. So this is an edit text. So I'm going to type edit text. And the second thing to do is set constraints. So you can drag and drop. You can drag your mouse from here, or you can click on these plus buttons. So I'm going to give it a constraint of 16 again. And I'm going to make 2 changes here. So okay, let's run our app and see what happens right now. Okay. So you click on the plus button and it will show you this name. So this name thing is actually, filled in. I need to, press backspace and type whatever title I have to put. But this is generally not how edit text fields are, right? This name is visible, but it is not when you click on it, it just goes away. So it is actually put as a text right now. So just delete it, this text field, and just scroll down at the bottom, and in common attributes, you'll find this hint attribute. So type in title over there. So I'm going to show you what the difference is. Yeah, so now when you click on the title, it just goes away and I can type in whatever we want over here. Yeah. Okay. Now let's make some more changes to the UI. So this title is, we've put it at the bottom left, and it is just a small, I mean, the width does not match completely. So let's just introduce another constraint to the right edge and keep it 16 on both sides. Okay, and now it is at the center, but I want it to expand completely. So what I'm going to do is click on the layout width and make it match constraint. And you will see that it expands, and this title now looks much better. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do is add a date field. So again, drag and drop from the same palette, a date thing. Edit the ID, new event, date, edit text. Okay, just a second. Yeah. Again, you can set constraints. So this time we are going to constrain it, I mean, relative to the title view that we have here and to the left. So just press on left. It will give a constraint and at the top. So when you click on top, you can see that it has constraint to the bottom of this title view. So this is what we want, so that it is relative. And adjust the constraints. I've made it 16 again. And even type in the hint attribute for this. I'm keeping it date. Right. So now this is a text field, right? But dates are generally not typed in this way. You have a calendar, and when you click on a calendar, it just pops up and you select a date and it gets entered over here. So that is what we're going to do. The second thing is, I mean, we'll go over it later. Just to the right of this, let's introduce a time edit text as well. So just drag and drop it below right now to start with. And what we need to do is we need to adjust our time to the right side over here. But you'll see that if you try to adjust it this way, it is not going to happen. I mean, this date and this time is just going to overlap. So firstly, I'm going to give an ID, new event, time edit text. Okay. And so, yeah, I'll also give the hint so that you can see. Yeah. So we don't want these to overlap. We want them in the same line, and Android Studio actually gives us an option to chain these two together. So just delete the left constraint right now and click on date, press Control and click on time. So both these widgets should be selected right now, and click on any of those widgets, right click on them, and click on this button named chains and click on create a horizontal chain. So you can see what happens. Basically, it has chained them together so that you can give it some good constraints and it will be in the same line and adjust the margins properly. And now that you have created this change, click on date. Now the layout width, you cannot set it to wrap content because it is actually exceeding the width of the screen. So for both the date and time edit text, change the layout width to match constraint. Yeah, and now we need to give some margins to it. So click on date, change the margin to 16. Click on time, change the right margin to 16. Now even at the center, we need a margin of 16, but we're going to divide it in two. So 8 dp for this date, right margin, and a left margin of 8 dp for time. So I hope that is clear. Do ask us if you have any doubts. So that will create this interface like this, where both of them are in the same line and spaced out equally.
Advait, can you quickly summarize what things did you do in from adding the title, so that those who have lagged behind can get an idea of it.
Okay, sure. Okay. So the first thing I did was to drag and drop a plain text widget from here. So I dropped it here, and then I edited the ID. Then I added some constraints for the title, one to the top, one to the left, and one to the right as well. And then I changed the layout width to match constraints so that the title expands completely and fills the screen, leaving out some space. Then I changed the hint to title and removed the name so that it is not editable. When you click on it, it just vanishes and you can type whatever you want. After title is done, similarly, I added two text fields, one for date and one for time here. And I created a horizontal chain between them, first thing. So you select both of them together, right click on any one of them, go over to chains and create a horizontal chain. So I've already done this, so I'm not doing it again. But when this is done, these will be chained together, and then you can adjust constraints for them individually. So add a left constraint of 16 for date, add a right constraint of 16 for time, and add a left constraint. For the center also we need 16 dp, right? So for date, add a right constraint of 8 and left for time 8 as well. So 8 and 8, that would be 16 at the center. So this is what we have done, and I'm going to delete this title one. So yeah, now you're actually seeing that there's a warning that says that this view is not constrained vertically, and that is the new event time. So we actually constrained date vertically, but I forgot to do it for time. So again, I'm going to introduce a constraint. I'm going to click my mouse, drag and attach it here. So this time will get attached to the title, and I'm going to change the value to 16. So now that error is gone, and yeah, it is done. So let me know if you have followed. I can wait for a minute until you guys have completed.
And then I have posted one more question on Slido. Please answer it. It is one of the basic questions that most of you should be able to answer. If not, Advait will explain you what the answer is. The code is same, T968. I will post it again.
Okay, I'll mark my answer after some guys do it.
Yeah.
If you guys have completed up until this point and are waiting for me or others, feel free to explore any other attributes that you want. So the text style or attributes like these as well. Capitalize. Okay, capitalize is a good one. So when you're typing in the title, right, I have my application open. So the first letter is not capital by default, and you can use the capitalize argument, attribute. Just click on words. Okay, I'll make it words. So it will capitalize every word. So you can explore such different attributes. They make the app a little bit better. Meanwhile, I'll just run this. Yeah, so you can see our UI is now created, and you can type in whatever you want. Okay, around so like 18 people have answered. So yeah. So the answer is actually find view by ID. Or I think mine's wrong. Okay, Vinod, can you tell me the correct one? Like
Okay, is it showing that set content view is the right answer?
Yeah, so yeah, a lot of people have
Okay,
voted
sorry,
for
sorry,
second
sorry,
content.
sorry. I think I did a
I mean,
bit
no,
mistake.
don't worry. Actually, there was a little ambiguity. I think even I got
Actually, the
confused
answer is
also.
yeah. The answer is uh, find view by ID. I think it's just showing that people have voted more for set content view
No, no,
because I
there's
haven't
some,
marked the correct answer.
acha, there's some ambiguity actually. Let me just clear it up. So this is what I think you guys are all referring to, set content view, that is r.layout.activity new event. So this line, this function is actually what is responsible to link this XML file to the activity, and the find view by ID function is what will get the widgets in a particular layout so that you can use them, just like get element by ID in JavaScript. So yeah, I get it. It was a little ambiguous, but I hope it is clear now. Even I got confused. Okay, cool. So let's go forward again. Yeah, so as I was saying now, we have our application, but I don't actually expect people to type in a date and time, right? There's usually a calendar and a clock to pick it up. So that is what we are going to do right now. So in this palette, just type in image button. So image button is a mixture of an image and a button. Yeah, so drag and drop, and okay, we'll need a resource, right? Okay, sorry. Just click on cancel. We'll first have to add resources. So click on drawable over here under resources, and click on, right click on it, and new vector asset. So what are vector assets are? These are basically images that you can insert, but they are not actual like PNGs or so on. They are actual vectors expressed in XMLs. So the resolution does not, whatever size you scale it up to, it does not okay, I don't remember the word, but yeah, it maintains its resolution is what I can say. So on this screen, the clip art would have been selected, so leave it at that. Click on this icon, and that will open up this a list of all icons. So this is what Android Studio provides. I mean, these are some material icons that they've designed in an attempt to make apps consistent everywhere. So we need it for calendar, right? So just type in calendar, or you will see that this icon is visible. Click on OK, and leave everything as the default. Click on next, and click on finish. So that will add this XML file, baseline calendar today. Again, click on drawable again, click on new, do the same thing, vector asset, click on clip art, and add one for time. Let me check if a better one is available. Okay. Click on time, this access time. Okay. And then click on next and click on finish. So time will be here as well. And now follow the same thing for our image button. So drag and drop, and similar to the floating action button, it will show a pop-up window to pick a resource. So you can pick this calendar here. It will show up. If it does not show up, just search it over here and click on OK, and you'll see this button here. Again, so some of you guys might experience a similar problem to the floating action button. It might not be visible here, but if you run your app, I'm sure it will be visible. So now what we have to do is, first thing is to change the ID. So I'm going to call it new event date picker. Okay. And the second thing is we have to add constraints. So now I want to actually place this button here, and I'll show you how to do it. So when you're aligning vertically with respect to some other widget, what you need to do is click on the top this and constrain it to the top of this, and click on the bottom and do it like this. So that should be clear, I think. So that, okay, I think I messed up. Yeah. So it basically tries to expand in both directions, on in the top and in the bottom, and centers it vertically with respect to the date widget. And then you can click on this right circle and constrain it to the right. So this will place it here. And we need to make a few changes to this. First of all, there's this ugly background of gray color. We need to remove it. So go to the attributes and you'll see that, yeah, there's this background attribute. So just type in transparent and select Android color / transparent. Okay. And you'll see that this gets modified. But yeah, one thing that got disrupted is our UI, I mean the constraints. So if that happens, just delete the top and bottom constraints and add them again. And it will be right at the center this time. Okay, so now we have this calendar icon. For the right constraint, just set it to 8. So it does not come too much to the left. And we have to do it similarly for time. So again, get an image button from the palette and click on access time, and it will come up. And I'm going to edit the IT, name it new event time picker, and I'll change the background as well. Okay, I don't know why it is not visible. Okay, I'll do it through XML. I don't know why it is not visible. So if you guys are not facing this error, don't worry about this XML. You can do it using the code and in the design editor there. Yeah, but because I was facing a problem, what I did basically is I headed over to code, and this XML file is generated automatically, right? So whatever attributes you give, they are specified here. So all I did was copy the Android background attribute from our date picker and paste it for our image button, I mean the time picker. So it got applied, and it has a transparent background now. Now we have to set the constraints. So set the top constraint to the time edit text top one, and the bottom constraint to the bottom one. So it gets centered vertically, and we have to align it to the right. So add a right constraint like this, and change this to 8. So yeah, this would make it consistent now. Also, if you're wondering, you can explore this code as well, the XML code as well. So I'll go over what image button this time picker looks like. So all these attributes, layout width equal to wrap content, height equal to wrap content, margin end means the right content, start means the left margin. So end is 8 dp, you have the background that is transparent, and you have the SRC, source compatible, that is the access time. And what these 3 lines are, they represent your constraints. So to give you an idea what this is, consider the first line. It says constraint bottom to bottom of edit event time edit text. So the bottom of this image button, it is constrained to the bottom of time edit text. So this is how it is basically. So if you check it for the right constraint, it will be like constraint end to end of event time edit text. So I hope that makes it clear. So you don't really need to do this, but sometimes when you have errors like this, like what I just had, you might have to tinker with this XML, and just knowing what it is basically can give you the authority to override whatever this design is doing. So we'll run this app. I'll wait for a minute for you guys to follow if you haven't. Yeah, sure, Akash. Yeah. Yep, so we have our buttons here, but our buttons don't do anything right now. It is exactly the same as the floating action button that we inserted, but clicking on it was doing nothing because we have not set an on-click listener yet. So what we do need to do here is set an on-click listener for both of these image buttons, this calendar and this time, so that when you click on them, a dialog box will pop up, and you'll be able to select the date. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Head over to the GitHub code. If you are in this add event activity, just press back and you'll see these different activities and these different files here. Okay, so just open custom date picker.java, and we're going to create this class right now. So this is a dialog box. You'll see how it looks when we create it. And so go over to Android Studio again and click on File, click on New, and you have to create a Java class. So there's this thing, I don't know if it's a bug or what, but if you have this layout editor open in front of you and you click on File and New, there's no option to to introduce a Java class, to create a Java class. I don't know if this is a bug in Android Studio, but if it is not visible for you, just open any other file, open a Java file and click on File New, and you'll see this Java class here now. So click on it and add the name custom date picker. So it's a class, double click on class and it will create this class for you. Now what we need to do is, first thing is extend this class. So you might have studied OOP in Java or in C++, right? So when we type in extends dialog fragment, it is basically extending from, it's basically subclassing this dialog fragment. And this override annotation will make sure that this function that is defined in dialog fragment is getting overridden, and this is what will execute instead. So it's okay if you don't understand this completely, but I'll explain what the code does. And when you enter dialog fragment, right, I'm sure it will show a red line. Just press left alt and enter, and it will import this for you. Okay, now it's fine if you copy the entire content of this class. Just copy it and paste it here. So I'll just import all of this. Okay, so this function onCreateDialog is defined in dialog fragment and we are overriding it. So all of this needs to be exactly the same, the parameters and all. So we are not actually going to use this bundle, saved instance, states and so on. So don't worry about it, but it has to be the same, which is why it is present here. While importing calendar, import java.util if you get two options. Okay, so I'll just explain what this is doing. So calendar.get instance is, so as I've mentioned, it is getting the built-in calendar instance of Java. So what we needed for is getting the current day, day, month and year. And this will be used to set as the default in our date picker. So otherwise it will, I think it will default to 1st January 1970, but we don't want that, right? So we want it to default to the current date, which is why we use Java's built-in calendar and do a calendar.get and calendar.day of month and year. So you will have the current day here. And then what we have to do is create a new date picker dialog and pass some parameters to it. So these are the parameters that we need to pass. So the first thing is context. So what is context? So it is like a base over which different things can be created. So whenever you open dialog boxes, right? So for example, any dialog box anywhere basically. So when I created this new vector asset, for example, it opened this dialog box over here. But this dialog box does not open on itself, right? It needs a base. In this case, the base is this Android Studio itself, because this is not a full-fledged window. So similarly, when you open a dialog box, it needs some kind of a base, and that base is called context in Android. So you can get it by using this inbuilt function called getActivity, and your activity will be the base over which that dialog box will be displayed. So I'll mention this again when I show you the UI. And the second parameter is this onDateSetListener. So I'll just read out the comments first. This is the listener that we implement in our activity. This is how date picker knows which function to call when the user has pressed OK after selecting the date. So when our date picker actually shows, right, it will show a calendar and it will show an OK and a cancel button. Now, when you actually click on that OK button, you need to know what date the user had selected, right? And this function on date set listener is what will get called when the user selects a date. So with the parameters day, month, and year, so you know what date he had selected. And this needs to be implemented in get activity. So we are going to do that first. So head over to your new event activity and go to GitHub again. Press back and open this add event activity button. Okay. So we have typed until here, we have set a title. Now what we need to do is these functions here. Okay, so the first thing you will need to do is type in implements date picker dialog dot on date set listener. So copy this part. It's fine if you copy just date picker for now. We'll add time picker later. And in your new activity, you paste it here, implements. Now what this is doing is our class is implementing this interface date picker dialog dot on date set listener. Now, if you have studied OOP, you would know what an interface is and what it does. Even if you have not, do not worry. But for those who understand what is happening, we have implemented an interface. And I mean, when you do this, you actually need to make sure you're overriding all the functions that are there in the interface, right? And we are not doing that at the moment, which is why Android Studio is showing a red line here. So go onto the line and press Alt Enter and click on implement methods, and it will show a pop-up box which methods you want to implement. So don't change anything here, just click on OK. And you'll notice that this function appears here. So this is the function that's a part of this interface. And this is the function that will get called when the user clicks on OK. So the name is on date set, and as parameters, you will get these values, year, month, and date. So in this function, you can do whatever you want with the date that he picks. So we are free to do that. Now, yep. So let's go back to our custom date picker.java. So over here, what we are doing is we are again doing get activity firstly. So we are getting a reference to the object that created this dialog box, and we are typecasting it into this interface on date set listener. So this is just typecasting in Java, right? And this will only be successful if you implement that interface that we just did, right? This implement, this thing. If you do not do this, this is going to show you an error, class cast exception or something like that. And I'm just creating an object of this on date set listener. And when I create this when I instantiate this date picker dialog, I'm going to pass this context, this date set listener, and current year, month, and day. So this date set listener will get called in our new event activity, and we are free to do whatever we want. So let's do one thing. Go to GitHub, and in this add event activity, copy the code for on date set. Now you already have this outline of this function, so you can just copy the contents. And paste it here. So do all the imports. Yeah. Make sure you have the correct ID. I don't have it, looks like. Yeah, head over to activity new event and check the ID for our date field, and that is new event date edit text. So copy this ID and paste it here, and yeah, now it is done. And these are some global variables. Okay, so copy them from GitHub as well, and I'll explain their purpose. So copy line 20 and 21. Yeah. So until you copy this, let me just explain what is happening. So on date set, as I said, this is a callback function and it gets called when the date is set. And what is happening in this function is you get this as integers, right? I'm formatting it as a date, day of month plus slash month plus one. Now why we're doing month plus one is because the index starts from 0. So we need to do a plus one, then again slash and an year. And again, we are doing a find view by ID, which is similar to get element by ID, get the date view, which is an edit text. So what I'm doing is I'm actually setting the date. So whenever a user clicks on OK, right, on that dialog box and selects a date, he will, that date will just get set in this our edit text view. So it will be clear when the application runs. And we are doing this, we are saving the date to global variables so that we can use them later. So I'll come back to this later. For now, you can ignore this part. I'll explain it when we need it. Right. So I hope you have completed up until this point. If you have not, do let me know, I'll wait.
Advait?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 10:52. I guess some people might, like some students might have their lecture at 11.
Yeah, I think we'll just cover this date picker and then we'll stop for the day.
Okay.
Yeah. So our application is installed now. And when you click on this icon, okay, yeah. I think I forgot one crucial thing, and that is to set an on-click listener. So head over to add event activity again on GitHub and copy this part, right? Line 33 to line 43. So this is our on-click listener. This is exactly the same as the floating action button, and you can paste it in on create function in your new event activity. Import everything. Add proper IDs. And yes. So yeah, we're just doing a find view by ID, and this is the function that will get called when the button is clicked. And we created this custom date picker in Java, right? So we actually need to give a call to it. So this is where we're doing it. So we just instantiate a class. So all I'm doing is creating an object of the class custom date picker, and there is this built-in function called show, and you pass in these arguments, get support fragment manager, and a tag. So this can be any tag. I've just kept it pick date. So when you do this, our dialog box will show. So I've installed my application again. Click on plus and click on date, and you'll notice that a calendar pops up. So this is a dialog box, and as I was showing you earlier, when a dialog box pops up, it needs a base to show, and that base is the activity, because this dialog box cannot just show up on its own. It needs that context. So now you can just interact with the calendar. You can select year, do anything, and select a date. So I'm selecting 20 November 2019 and click on OK. And what you'll notice is that this date will be, it will be set as a text in this date field because we are doing this. We did a find view by ID and we did our date view dot set text to this string variable. Yep. So I think let's stop here today. We'll continue this in the next session. Do ask us if you have any questions.